People, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you for tuning back in each and every time. I've got some talking points. Why waste any more time? I might as well get into it. Now, if those of you have been paying attention to links, we've been linked with an 18-year-old centre-half who plays for Schalke. I assume he's made his debut. Don't think he's made too many senior appearances because he's 18. I've seen bits and pieces of him in the youth league, and I'm sure you lot have as well as, you know, I'm sure you're on the YouTube, the Wii Scouts, etc., trying to find a lot about this young centre-half, Malick. Can't say his last name, don't know, you know, everything about him, but what I do know is he's got decent height. He's okay on the ball. I wouldn't say he's necessarily expansive. He can play a pass, a long and short range. He's definitely not afraid to carry it from the back and advance further forward. He's a threat in an offensive sense in the air. He can get up and stuff, but I think he can improve in the air. I think his body positioning can improve because he reads the game fairly well, but I think he's in awkward positions that makes him have to work twice as hard to win the ball and things. These are all things you'd expect with an 18-year-old. Not too sure for his pace. I'm not too sure how quick he's on the recovery either, really and truly, if I'm honest with you. He's, from what I've seen and when I've seen him, he hasn't had to rely on anything like that, so I'm not too sure. For me, glaringly obvious, his concentration and his positioning needs to improve. But at 18, he's got a decent bit of potential. Not every young player who's a teenager right now is going to go on to be a world-class player. Some are just going to be average Joes. Some are going to be competent individuals. And I believe he can. There's a couple of Schalke players people are looking at, a couple of teenagers, and Schalke have a good academy and have been having a good academy. Our very old Mesut also at a point was there. So they're a club you've always got to look at, man. A couple of years ago they had Matheus Henrique, can't say his name. They've got a couple of American lads there. I'm sure there's an Australian lad that people are looking at. And we've been linked with Malick, as has Liverpool. Now, he's labelled the new Joel Matip for whatever reason, but you can see the attraction to Liverpool. Klopp, Bundesliga. Someone at 18, you must have seen what he was doing in Bundesliga. He must be a big pull to German clubs. It must to German players. It must be a big pull to know that someone that you're looked at, that they say you're the next Matip, is in that Liverpool side. And obviously you've got Jurgen Klopp, who's a German speaker and a German national, and you've obviously previously had Emre Can, on top of Liverpool being, you know, Champions League winners, dead on to win the Prem, and the obvious. It makes sense to go there. Now, obviously, you've got Joe Gomez ahead of you, whether you can eclipse him. You've got, is it Van den Berg? I can't say his name, but they got a young, decent centre-half Dutch lad as well that they bought recently. Matip's been playing okay. How long is he going to last? He's not getting ahead of Van Dijk. So immediately, does he want to give up being on the verge of potential first-team football in the top league to, you know, you can train at Liverpool, you can be in a more competitive side, undoubtedly improve, but there's no substitute for game time. I'm sure he backs himself to get game time. I would too, because Lovren's probably going to depart, but does he believe he can get ample first-team football to bring him up to a level at Liverpool currently? If he does, and Klopp's told him that and Liverpool have, fair play to the lad. And that goes for Arsenal as well, because you look at Arsenal, there's a lot of centre-halves on our books, really and truly. He needs to go where he's going to play. You know, he also develop and stuff, but minutes are currency. He's 18, so you've got to take your time. You can see why both clubs are linked with him. 18, contracted until 2021. You're hearing a fee of 7 to 8 million. That obviously entices Arsenal slightly more than Liverpool, because we've got to watch our pennies a bit more, people. So with that, obviously he's young, there's scope to develop, there's potential, there's obviously resale value, and obviously there's a longevity factor, because if he develops, you can have someone for a good period before other things happen. You've got Saliba, who's recently turned 19, you've got Malik, who'd be 18, Holding and the Chambers, they're in their early to mid-20s, and obviously you've got a couple fullbacks like that. The obvious one as well, people, and on top of that, reports claim, well, Area Napoli publication has claimed, they say Liverpool are in pole position, though, and could be an attractive destination for him. He's only made his debut at the beginning of this month. The impression from the club is that the player will go elsewhere this summer and choose the best bidder in terms of salary and technical project. So, I mean, wages, some of the names in this report, people, it says Liverpool, it says AC Milan, it says PSG. I'm sure with PSG, in terms of wages, is where he would earn the best. But in terms of a project, Listen, kids are playing at PSG. You've got what's his name? I always forget names when I'm doing vids, man. Kouassi, he's playing right now. There's a couple of kids that have got opportunities at PSG. Obviously, not playing on a regular basis, week in, week out sort of thing. But there's that. Liverpool, will he get that? How many kids at Liverpool are going to play realistically? Liverpool will be expected to win the league, and I'm sure they'll try to retain it, and I'm sure they want to go harder in the champs. He can be a part of that, but how much game time is he going to get? Because obviously Liverpool have to develop him, and he wants to develop. At the same time, Klopp's got to answer to fans if they don't win, if they lose a certain game on the week, and he's got to staying competitive. So is it best to stay where you are? I hear wages and stuff, but is it best to stay where you are for a couple of seasons, get an education, review this situation when you turn 20 or so? Who knows, where you've got a bit more about you. I think he's got a lot of potential, but it is what it is, people. It's right up there. The obvious thing in relation to Arsenal, it's another sort of project player. I'm never going to get at them. But for me, looking at our centre-halves, I don't really... And it's no criticism of anyone. There's not really a centre-half that makes me feel... Yo, we're serious. Like, you're saying whether it's Aubameyang for a year now or he's gone in the summer. When you look at our strikers, there might be players that are decent and stuff, but you look at Aubameyang, for me to have the confidence to know whether he's out wide, whatever, he's scoring 20 league goals minimum, that must be a joy to a manager, because it is me to a fan. There's not too many certainties. And I look in our defence, yeah, you've got Luiz and Mustafi in good form, and Socrates, 3 players who, despite hearing Luiz is in line for a new deal, have to renew their futures. You can't really be convinced fully with them because it's a form thing. You can't, if you was betting your life or your life savings on them, you wouldn't do it. And obviously with the young players, we've got a lot of project players. I think we need to move some players on, but Mavropanos in the next couple of years, whether here or going out on loan, could develop into a 15 million plus player. We could sell and make our profit if he doesn't progress the first team. Rob Holding signed for 2 million. You surely can sell him for about 20. I like Holding, but has he really kicked on significantly? He was looking like that before the injury, but since he's been here, has he made 100 appearances in all the years he's been here? We know he's been used sporadically and stuff. I think he needs to be exposed week in, week out, because there's still naiveties that I don't want to sit here and keep saying about Holding years into this. But Holding's another project. Chambers, I think Chambers has earned a spot in this side and I would use him, but we don't know for his injury and things, people. But you'd say he's a bit of a project sort of player. And the same, obviously, different, because Saliba's going to be a quality centre-half, but he's a young man. So, we've got experience, with the exception of Mustafi, who's, in terms of ages, is in the right place, but he's just... I don't think we'll sign a new deal. We've got players that are 30 that are past it, that are getting on a bit. We've got young players who are still looking at them to think, yo, are you going to stand up to be counted? Malick's a good player, but you're going to have to add him into the mix, where for all his potential and, it only being 7 million and he's contracted until 2021 and he's 18 years of age and labelled this and that and everyone's up for him. You've got to give him scope to develop. You've got to, bear in mind, he's a young 18-year-old man, hasn't even made 10 appearances for Schalke. He's going to be naive. He's going to get ripped alive. I wouldn't begrudge him for leaving. If you go to a Liverpool, you're part of the first team, predominantly playing 23s, training and stuff, and when your chance comes, cool, because it's not always as simple as he's not going to play there, he's not going to improve as a player. It doesn't work like that. But if I was him, was his advisors, I'd probably stay put at Schalke or go to a less reputable team, or the team that has the best development project for me, because no criticism to Liverpool or Arsenal and things, and he's got potential. You're just going to be one of many. Same way we're being linked with him. We've just signed Saliba. Any other young centre-half, Arsenal probably going to try to buy him thingy, and it goes through all of the rest, people. So he needs to be selfish about his development, in my opinion. I do believe he's eligible to play for addition to Germany, Senegal and Finland in relation to his ancestry. So that's decent. Quick word on Umtiti. He's been also linked with us. I came across an article via AS that said... more or less, he's only made 16 appearances this season. He seems to be one, along with Rakitic, potentially Semedo, even here in Griezmann. I've seen Dembele, but I've seen a lot of conflicting reports. Players are going to have to leave Barcelona to raise funds, whether that's for Neymar or any other player they're linked with. And obviously throw Coutinho into the mix. He's only played 16 times. They've been linked with a whole bunch of other centre-halves. But apparently he can't play 3 times a week, people. He can't play three times a week due to the fact that he's constantly in pain and he's got an issue with his right knee. Now, I don't like to get too caught up on, the thickness and things, because we don't really know the full scale as a fan. But considering the fees you hear for Umtiti, 50 million, for someone that can't play 3 times a week and someone with an injury billing, would you really want to jinx it and bring him to Arsenal? No disrespect to him, because I would take him. He's a World Cup winner. He's won stuff at Barcelona. He's a competent centre-half and has been a competent centre-half for a couple of years now, people. Moving away from that, and yeah, an Italian publication, I'm going to call it Dello Sport. I can't say the Corriere. My Italian guys, I know you got me, man. You know I don't do this pronunciation thing, but apparently they've come up with a real creative method in relation to Mkhitaryan's future. Apparently they're saying his agent is trying to do a mad thing. Basically, if I read it out, they aren't looking to buy him outright just yet, as Giuliano Petreo sorry, people, let me start again. Basically, Roma are not trying to buy him permanently, as Gianluca Petrassi, whatever, I assume he's got a position at Roma, through Mino Rinola, is trying to renew a paid loan for an extra season. I've used Google Translate, so I promise you I can read. But you know, obviously, it wouldn't make sense for an extra year's loan. For Roma, it might, because you know they could pay his loan fee. If he bangs again, he's a free agent. They might be able to get him to sign less wages and a less contract length, regardless of form, because he's getting on a bit. Obviously, you'd be inclined to believe Arsenal are going to miss out on a loan fee. And this article has gone on to say, more or less, one option for Mkhitaryan is to renew his deal at Arsenal for lower wages. I assume protecting our value of the player and then moving him on. As you've seen anything from 10 million to 24 million for Mkhitaryan. For me, I would take the 10 million. Again, when you consider the wages you've paid him, it's not exactly just all profit, but he's 31. We've got no intention. If Arteta might want to use him, but we've got no intention of him being here long term. I'd assume not giving him a contract just as a fan. So it doesn't make sense to you might as well just bite the bullet, take your 10 million. For me, more than the 10 million is the fact that you've got a high earner off the wages, because you know Mkhitaryan, El Nene's on respectable wages, but a decision has to be made with Mkhitaryan, Ozil, Kolasinac, Laka, players who have 2 years left on the deals, contracted until 2022. It's impossible for me really to see these players not moved on, or some of them moved on, and Aubameyang signing a new deal, whether you believe he should get 300 bags a week or not, people. It is a bit of a creative one from the Italian publication, but you wouldn't put it past Mino. But carrying on from the report, it says they aren't looking to buy him outright just yet, as Gianluca Petrassi is through Mino Rinola trying to renew the paid loan for an extra year. There are problems with this, as the Armenian's contract with Arsenal runs out in June 2021, meaning in his current state a loan wouldn't be possible. That's why Mino Rinola's strategy is to try and get the Gunners to renew his deal with a lower wage than he currently earns, in order to allow that contract extension, because I know he'd probably sign an extra year. We're protected, because you know it'll be a bit of a scam if they got him on loan and then in January of next year do a thing where he can sign a deal permanently. People, we get shagged and it'd be shortchanging ourselves, people. So we'll see how that one develops, people. Apparently they're reluctant to meet the asking price. Clearly that one is still a slow burner and things to go. In short, in relation with what's going on with the coronavirus, apparently Arsenal are confident on renewing the deal of Dani Ceballos to stay here for an extended period, obviously if games need to be played again. And you'd imagine Real Madrid wouldn't have issues to that, because it's out of our control. You'd imagine Ceballos would as well, wouldn't, and you'd imagine Arsenal. And for Ceballos, it's been a bit of a saving grace, because I do believe he was going to go to the Euros anyways, but potentially if the Spain manager already made his mind up, he's been granted that grace to continue his good form for Arsenal, and whatever happens next season is on him, and he keeps developing. When you look at someone like Lacazette, you can get your act together, and you might, because you'll have a year to run in the summer, players typically play better, you might be able to get a move or get into the Euro side. Certain people have been caught live, people, because you look at Lacazette, you're not getting in the French side. It's been delayed. You look at Calvert-Lewin, you look at Danny Ings, potentially players that are in good form, potentially feel hard done by. I'm sure Spurs fans are happy when the season comes, because their players have been dropping like flies. And when we do play again, I'd assume Harry Kane would be fit. But yeah, man, you'd imagine Real Madrid wouldn't have an issue with that. Moving on, and I've spoken about this guy already, Matheus Henrique. Hopefully I've said his name right. If Arsenal really are looking in the South American market, then I think we should give this guy a try. I've said it before, I came across him in the Toulon. I'm not watching Guillermo religiously, but I know this guy's a baller. The only concern people could have is that he looks a bit lightweight, because he can play at the base in midfield, more the Santi thing, building and stuff, and he can play in a pivot. He's got a lovely passing range. He can hit a free kick, but I wouldn't call him a free kick threat. He can take set pieces. He can play progressive passes. I'm sure he's been capped by Brazil since my first video on this lad, or been called up. He's only 22, so there's resale value in things. I genuinely believe he's going to be a hit in Europe at some level, and he's a player that Arsenal should look to go to for all the obvious people, and I'm not going to stop banging that drum until it happens, people. Arsenal have always in theme with centre-halves. Again, by a core sport, we've been linked with Smalling, or as the reports say, Christopher Lloyd Smalling. Apparently, Manchester United are thought to be demanding a fee in the region of €25 million for the 30-year-old. And again, it wouldn't make much sense. Smalling's been having a decent year, and I wish him all the best luck in Roma. I wouldn't sign him, but I must admit, since his Roma form, and I got a lot of stick for saying this in my previous vid, purely because his form and how he's been playing in Roma, if you was to give me this Smalling than Smalling a couple of years ago, I'd be less angry. I do think Smalling isn't my cup of tea and isn't my player, but I think he's one of them players generally. Man have made their mind up already, sort of thing, people. I wouldn't go for him, because I don't think it makes sense. 25 million for a 30-year-old. If I'm Smalling, I don't know his United wage, but I'd want to get that or near enough close to it. It's a return to London. I'd make sure I'm getting a free, maybe even 4-year deal. I'm making sure I'm tied down to I'm 33 minimum. I'm not trying to hear a 2-year deal from Arsenal. So it doesn't make sense, people, as well, because regardless of if you don't like Smalling or not, if we signed him, you've got Socrates, whether he leaves or not with a year left. You've got Luis, you've got players that are of the same age. We've got players we need to move on already. Why add more man of the same sort of age range, people? It doesn't make sense. Roma obviously have him. Apparently you heard their manager say last month they wanted to sign him, and maybe this is Man United playing Roma a bit and trying to get more money from him, because 25 million for a player they don't want is a decent bit of business considering he's 30 and they can move on. Who knows, he might get a chance next season, because you're hearing Southgate apologise to him and looking at him now, so he's clearly got some mentality. Obviously he's a Premier League winner. I wouldn't go for him, but he's not as bad as people make out. Centre halves, and I'm sure centre half that people will want. Dyer up on Meccano. You've seen him in the champs. You saw him playing like a madman against Spurs. That's more enough reason for someone to sign you for my club than anyone, really. Apparently, we know he's going to leave. Looks likely to leave Leipzig, and it looks based on the reports that it's either going to be Bayern Munich or somebody else, and we're in there. All the top teams are trying to get him. I would love him. I don't think he's the finished article. I think fans would need to calm the hype down and look at the player, but who wouldn't want that? Apparently he will hand in a transfer request if he has to force through his move, people, and if no club matches his 60 million exit clause, so that's probably around 50 something. Whether Arsenal will front that, I don't know, but he's being looked at, like I said, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, PSG, actually Barcelona I'm reading now. He's been linked with Spurs, the team that he destroyed. Maybe that's why. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards, people. Finally, Mustafi, and just to highlight his turnaround, I came across a tweet by, I believe, Patrick Timmons. Go follow him up on Arsenal on Arsenal Twitter and things. I like to give people credit. And obviously, this is looking at Mustafi with a bit of rose tints, because he has had some poor games, but in short, his form has been immaculate, and even when he makes mistakes, he's reacted well in games. In 2020, he's played 695 minutes. There's been 116 minutes conceded per goal conceded. He's made 48 clearances, 5 blocks, 16 interceptions, only been dribbled past once, which is another case of stats being misleading, because it more or less goes that he's invincible and he's not. He's won 11 tackles. He's won 43 aerial duels, and his success rate is at 74%. His passing accuracy is 85%, and he's made 479 passes, 4 key passes, 1 assist, and 48 long balls. And his long balls have actually been good since he's come in. And like I've said, Mustafi, at the end of the day, we've got our opinion on Mustafi, but if you're playing well, you have to give a man credit where due. And Mustafi has finally started to look like the centre half we expected from Valencia. He should be our best centre half because of ages and whatnot, but it remains to be seen what's going to happen with him. But he's doing his best to ultimately get a new deal, to show Arteta what he's on. And one thing I like about Mustafi is, even though he makes these mistakes and ultimately shows he'll let you down, the mistakes against Chelsea, I've seen him, the mistake against Chelsea in particular, he reacted. He made the mistake, he held his hands up and he reacted well. Now, it's already happened, you cannot go back in time sort of thing, the damage is done. But I've seen Mustafi make one mistake and then make more people curl into a ball. And I'm happy that he's got the belief that he can't control things, he's going to go out and get that. I actually think the tweet in question I'm speaking about, people, he reacted to it and I think he replied to it, sorry. And he should be proud of himself. And you know, Mustafi's had a tough time through bad form, but at times unnecessarily scapegoated. Things have gone over the top and he's had a terrible time with social media and he's spoken about it. At the end of the day, you play well, it shuts things up. A part of me thinks, when you look at Xhaka and Mustafi, consider that they both have had young children. Could it actually be their reasons that they've had better form or turned their careers at Arsenal around? Obviously Xhaka with the stuff that was happening, Mustafi with what I've just said, purely because obviously they know there's more things important to life than just football. But maybe seeing another life, you know, I've never been in that situation, so I can't imagine it. But I'd imagine life is unexplainable when you see a little you or 50% of you in your hand and things you thought were important weren't. And then you've now got someone else to live for, really. You've got someone else. I think they both have daughters. Have they gone to themselves, yeah, football's my life, but it's not important. Whether I play good or bad, you know, I hold my hands up, I'm human. Whether the fans get onto me, all I can do is my best. Like, these things ain't important. Mustafi might think, you know, F what people on social media are saying. I've got a youth that I need to build the future for and give her generational wealth and set a good example and all of these sort of things. I genuinely believe, because it's like normal life. How many men, I've had friends, there's one friend, I rate him, I call him Father of the Year. Most reckless guy, not with his own life, but himself, just dumb. The minute he had a child, complete 360, people, complete 360. I'm not saying they needed to do 360 or anything. I'm just saying, could that clarity of, you know what, it's just a game of football at the end of the day. I can only do my best, but my children or my child and my family are the most important things to me now, even more so than they were. Could that be what's, you know, kind of giving them the healthy kick? I don't know. I do think fundamentally it's Arteta giving them man opportunities and saying, I believe in you. But it must play a part, because it would for any of you, like, if you was in their situations and predicaments. But I need to go, people. I've got a team meeting at 5 o'clock. It's 4:56. I need to turn back on that laptop. Shh. People, deluded. I'm out.